Now we got the tire off. We're going to want to spray down the front brakes with the brake cleaner. Okay, welcome to Jack of All Trades. Today we're going to do a front and rear brake service, 2009 Hyundai Accent 1.6 liter. As you see here, these are some of the items you're going to need to get started. We're looking at number one. You're going to need some synthetic brake lubricant. It's make sure that it's the this stuff's purple when it comes out of the tube, and this is designed for caliper, slide pins, clips, stuff like that. Second thing you're going to need is to protect your eyes is some safety glasses, as shown here. And then we're also going to need a mask to protect from fumes and dust. And we're also going to need 2 cans of brake cleaner. It doesn't matter what company it is, as long as it's just brake cleaner. So you pick this up at any store. And last but not least, you're going to need some gray anti-seize lubricant. This is for the back of the brake pads, between the plate and the brake pad. So anyway, you're going to need to jack the vehicle up on 2 jack stands on the front with some blocks on the back tires, emergency brake on, and so that way we have access to the fronts. This service should be done yearly. You should be cleaning their brakes, all the parts, and to prevent brake dust and road salt and debris from getting between the joints in your brakes, which can wear them down quicker. So this videos also could be used to show you how to actually replace the front brake pads and the rear brake shoes. So if you need to do a brake service, brake replacement, you can watch this video too and learn how to do the front and the rear. So I'm going to cover both. So let's get started. Okay, so I just jacked up both sides with boards underneath the tires, as covered in my other video. This is where you place the jack stand on both the front rails there, right in front of the behind the rubber grommet. And then like, to get the scissor jack to do this is very dangerous, so you shouldn't be using a scissor jack if you're going to raise both sides. Leave the boards underneath the tires as a backup, just in case some reason the stands fail. And leave, let's just get a, there you go, and leave the unibody adapter with the jack on the side you're working on. Leave that connected, and so that there's a little bit of weight on the jack, and most of the weight's on the jack stands. And those tires are right off those boards on both sides. So I gotta take the tire off right now, and then we'll continue. So just wanted to show you guys that. We want to be safe here. You don't want to lift the car and have it fall. Okay, so now we got the tire off. You're going to want to spray down the front brakes with the brake cleaner. I'm not going to do this on film because I don't want to ruin my camera with all the mist. But you're going to spray like this, in here, and just give it a thorough spray and let it drip in the pan. And then once you're done that, we'll continue. Okay, now that that's done drying, this is the caliper body. And the caliper body is very heavy. It needs to be supported on the front spring with a rope or bungee. If the caliper body is seized, you can rebuild one or order the entire OEM unit. This is the brake hose. The brake line is made of rubber and can tear and rip and be damaged unless you support the caliper body when removing. So the caliper body is held on by 2 14mm bolts, and we need to remove those. And they're right here. There's one right here, where I'm pointing, and there's one down below, right there. And once you've removed these bolts, you need to suspend the caliper body on the front spring. So let's zoom out here. Let's go up a little. Okay, here's a close-up of the 14mm bolts I'm talking about. Located inside the highlighted area is the upper 14mm bolt, and there's also another one below. So what you're going to do is you're going to take off those bolts. The caliper is going to go up, and you're going to tie it off to the spring. And I suggest I got myself a bungee cord or a piece of rope. It's rubber. You don't want any pressure on this. As stated earlier, you must use a bungee or a rope to suspend the caliper on the spring. Now the caliper body has been suspended on the front spring like so. We need to inspect the caliper seals more closely. We are looking this right in here, right where I'm pointed. If this seal is leaking, you will need to purchase a caliper rebuild kit that will include a new piston seal and piston boot, which is here, and then there's one further in. There's two seals. The seal kit for the front disc brake seal kit costs $17.73, and the part number is 581021GA00. This kit will include the piston seal, the piston boot, as well as the two small pin boots on the caliper bracket. And what I mean by that is, let's go back down here. These rubber boots right here. There's one there, and then there's one down below, right down there. So it comes with all those boots. These are important. You don't rip these because your slider pins go in here, and you got to keep the moisture out of here. Once I got the caliper off, it's out of the way. Caliper's right here, but it's been taken off. If the caliper body does not slide off the brake pads, you can press the brake pad in with a screwdriver in between the slot there, and then just move it back and forth, and this will push the piston in to help get the caliper body off. These might be stuck on there. This stuff gets corroded really fast, and there's a lot of debris. So I already removed these and put them back on for the sake of showing you. Take off that pack pad, and then you just pop this one off like that. You see those ends? They need to be cleaned up. This is why a brake service is important. You see in there? Look at that, eh? It's all corroded. That's after 1 year of brake service. Can you imagine not doing this for 2-3 years? Okay, there are two retainer clips. One right here, top one, and a bottom retainer clip. These clips are universal, so placing them back on really does not matter for the top and bottom when installing them back on the brake caliper bracket. Each brake pad has two notches in them. What I mean by notches is there's a notch on that one right there. There's a notch on that one right there. There's a notch on that one right there. And there's a notch on that one right there. Okay, the brake pad that holds the brake pad shim has two notches that are spaced out farther apart than the outer pad shown here. These are spaced out farther than these two. Okay, the brake pad with the metal shim goes on the inside of the caliper bracket, which is located here, inside. So you watched me take it apart, that's how you put it back together. Now let's head over to the computer to show you a detailed description on brake inspection and the measurements you need to perform. Okay, as shown here in the still shot, this is a picture of the brake pad. We have, let's see here, look, the circle there, you notice the notch. This is one of the brake pads. It's important you notice the depth of that notch. We'll talk about that in a second. Make sure that the nose debris is in this notch. Make sure it's all clear, or that'll cause lines in your disc rotor or disc plate. Let's see here. Let's go to the next diagram. Let's go back there. Okay, pad thickness is measured between the white marks shown here. And notice the guide, like I explained earlier, that when the brake pad reaches this point, the brake pad must be replaced. And I'm going to show you why in a second. The standard pad thickness is 11 millimeters, measured between the two white marks. The serviceable limit is 2 millimeters, which is the distance from the notch to the metal part of the brake pad. Okay, let's explain about the metal clip here. One of the brake pads has a clip like this. You notice how thick the piece of metal sticking out is on the end, that's the same depth as the notch between the pad here and the surface. So when you reach this notch, this depth, this piece of metal will touch up against your disc plate or rotor, and will start to make a really bad squeal noise. And when that happens, you basically have barely any brake pad left, and it's very dangerous to be riding without brakes. So you should keep an eye on this when you service your brakes yearly as you see them wear down. Also, another thing you should look for is in your master cylinder, you'll see the brake fluid level. It will slowly go down as the brake pad wears out, because the caliper body will fill with more brake fluid and cause the reservoir to go down. So that's another sign that your brake pads are wearing out. You're just going to pull this out, push on the boot in, pull it out, push on the boot, pull it out, and there's the upper pin. It's got the rubber end on it, and the same as the bottom one. Push in on the rubber, twist, push in, twist, hold it out. The top caliper guide rod pin has a black rubber tip on the end, and the bottom one does not. And as you can see by looking in there, look at all that crud in there. So that's why you service your brakes as well. Let's zoom out here and show you. I forgot to show you this. This is part of the brake parts too. You're going to need to remove these. You just push down and they come out like that. There's one down here too, and you just pop it up like that. It comes out. Look at the crud on that. That was cleaned last year. So now you have all your brake parts ready to clean. Okay, you're going to clean these up. You're going to spray these down with brake cleaner, and then you're going to use some emery cloth. This is 3M, and you're going to use emery cloth around there and clean it all up nice and clean. So I'm going to show you what these look like when they're done. These parts are absolutely ferocious. So if anybody tells you don't need to do a brake service yearly, there's your evidence. Okay, to replace the brake disc, if you're going to replace the brake disc, this is the brake disc right here. Remove the brake disc from the hub using an M8 screw. There should be an M8 screw right here and one right there. You need to remove these two screws, and that's the first step. Okay, to get to the disc plate, don't know if you can see that too well from the camera angle, you need a 17mm socket. You need to break this bolt loose here, and then there's one right get my pointer here. That way you guys can see what I'm doing. Right there. There's a bolt right there. And then there's a bolt right here. You're gonna break those loose. They're like 80 something pounds, so they're really on there. And when you take those loose, this bracket will come off. And then once you do those two little screws there, if this rotor doesn't come off, if it's on there tight, just lightly tap on it with a rubber mallet on each side until it comes off. And that's how you take off the disc, the brake disc. Let's see here. There's the pins. They're already clean. You're going to use some emery cloth. You're just going to go like that. In there, in there, in there, in there. Do not scrape on the rubber. In here, and here. You want to clean them up, look like that. Nice and smooth and clean. Spray them down with brake cleaner. Get them looking like that. Okay, and you're going to use a synthetic brake lube. It's going to put a lot on these pins, because these are the pins, just like there you go, just like that. It's like a purple type synthetic brake lubricant. And these are going to be greased thoroughly, because the caliper slides in and out on these pins. So if these are not lubricated and they get seized, your brakes will wear out quicker, or you might have uneven brake pad wear. It's all because of these little guys. So you're going to grease both pins just like this. Okay, so we're going to install the upper pin with the rubber tip, which looks like this, that we just greased. Let's zoom in, and it's going to go right there. You're going to want to put this in, just like this, and just press it in, and then the rubber boot will click onto it, just like that. You want to make sure that there's lots of grease in here, so that these pins can move freely. Okay, these are the pad retainer clips right here. They've already been cleaned. See how nice and clean they are? What you're going to do is you want to brush down the surface of them until they're clean, and you have an option. You can use one of these on your drill. You can use a Dremel with a tip like that. I've already lost some of the teeth. This is what I use to clean them, right here. Or use a good old wire brush. You're going to want to make sure that you clean all in the channels on both sides, just like that. So that's the proper way to clean the clips. Okay, so now we need to clean these areas on the caliper bracket with the wire brush. I'm going to brush in here, in there, in this groove. Same groove on this side. Be careful not to hit this rubber pin boot. You don't want to scrape it or damage or rip it. Up in here, it's the same thing, and then up in here. Okay, so you're going to place the brake synthetic grease where the pads will touch the tops of the clips. So, on the tops. So, right there. You don't want to do the bottom. Down here, just leave it the way it is. Okay, let's reach down and grab a clip. I'm going to show you how to install the clips. The grease side facing up. And put the clip in there. Just like that. And then just press down. Until it snaps in place. Careful not to get any grease on the brake disc. So you just want to snap it into the groove just like that. And you're going to do that for the top as well. And this is what it'll look like when they're installed. You push up and you'll hear it click in and fit into the grooves just like that. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the brake pads and the shim. So right here, as you see, they're already clean, but this is just for educational purposes. I'm going to talk a little bit about these. Okay, so you're going to need to, when you take the brake pads off the car, you're going to need to remove the brake pad shim from the inner brake pad like so. So let's just grab it. It should just pop right off, just like that. And both brake pads have notches in them. So I don't know if you saw that. Let's just go up a little closer. See those notches right there, right there, right there, and right there. Perfect into the notches as shown here. And there's the shim. And see the spacing between the notches? That's what I mean by it'll already fit in the OEM brake pad automatically. Okay, so what we're going to do is the brake pad shim should be wire brushed on both sides like shown here. See how clean that is? That's how clean you want the brake shim. Okay, let's talk about brake pads. Let's grab a brake pad. You're going to want to clean the groove in the brake pad. Use a paper clip or a razor blade, because you do not want debris getting stuck in there or stones and then coming above the brake pad. When you apply the brakes, you'll put scrape marks on your brake disc. So you're going to want to clean the brake pad like this. Okay, so now we have a brake pad what you're going to do is when you take it off the car, you're going to wire brush in here, all in here, around here, clean all this up in here, there, and there, and there, and there, turn it around, and there. You don't need to scrub this down, just leave that the way it is. You're going to want to make it sure it's all clean from any type of debris, road dirt. Spray it down with brake cleaner, and this is how it should look when you're done. Now there's my pad thickness. That mark is also your wear line. So when it gets down to the end, it's time for new pads. Okay. Do not use the gray anti-seize on the ends here. You're going to want to use synthetic brake lubricant, the purple stuff we used on the pins, on the ends. You're not going to want to get any type of lubricant on the pad surface. Let's just tip this down. Now you can put anti-seize on this pad if you want. That's optional. The lubricant will stop the squeaking when you apply the brakes. See like how thick that is? When you get past this wear line and you get down to the metal, it'll activate this pin. It'll touch up against the brake disc and it'll make a really loud squealing noise. That's basically a warning thing for pin to tell you, you know what, you better stop and get brakes because you have no brake pad left. So this is also another reason why you service your brakes, to take a look at the condition of them, whether you need new pads. These are perfectly worn evenly. So I'm really happy to see brakes that are wearing out like this evenly. This is 4 years now I've had this car. This clip here, I'm not too sure if the new brake pads have this clip on there. Looks like that one's permanently attached. Some brake pad styles, you need to pop the clip off and put the clip on the new brake pads. These ones, I believe, they look like they're attached, so this clip doesn't come off. And you're going to want to put the brake synthetic grease lubricant in those grooves. Now this is the pad that the clip goes on, where the notches are further apart. You're going to want to put anti-seize in here. Then I'll show you how to put the clip on. It's pretty basic. This clip here, you see how there's a circle there? That's the caliper piston. Strike it up against this plate. You want to keep this plate completely clean. You can get away with putting the anti-seize in here. So you just pop it on like this. It fits into the grooves, and then it snaps on like that. That's the correct way to put on the strike plate, or whatever they call this. And that goes on the inside when you install it, just like we did earlier when we removed the brake pads. If you're replacing brake pads, you need to do both sides at the same time. You never just replace one side, you always do them in pairs. Okay, as you see, here's a screenshot of the brake disc. Between the arrows is where you're going to measure. You're going to want to use a micrometer. Looks like this. Pick this up in any auto parts store. Canadian Tire is where you get this one from. What we're going to do is you're going to want to either take it to the machine shop, get them resurfaced, or buy new ones. The reason why is you do not want to put new pads on an old brake disc, because the lines in it will transfer over to the new pads. And this is the Hyundai spec. It's going to be 22, you see all the yellow, 22 millimeters is the standard thickness. Shouldn't exceed 0.005. Limit 20.0 millimeters. If it hits 20.0 millimeters or less, you need to replace these because they'll warp and be dangerous if you break. You want to measure at different spots from here, 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 and then up here, over in the corner here, and then down here. So just thought I'd show you a screenshot to explain this, so this helps you understand this point here. So let's continue. Okay, just basically another thing I like to talk about is the brake indicators. That's these things right here. These end pieces. The brake indicator, wear indicator, is on the shim. The shim goes on the inside like that. That indicator is located at the top like that. So when you put on new brake pads, Make sure the indicator's up here, not down there. And it's not in backwards. This is very, very important. Just thought I'd show you that. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the anti-seize, put it on the inside, and then we're going to install the brake shim, just like this. And then we're going to snap it in place. Like this. So you're going to put it in, and see if this will snap in place. There we go. That's how you do that one. It's a lot easier taking them out. There we go. That's how you properly install your pads. Same thing with new ones. Like I said, make sure these contacts are greased, because you want your pads to move freely in and out. If you have resistance on here, they're not installed correctly. See how they move in and out freely? That's what you want. Okay, before we finish up here, because we're almost done, if you get new pads, just be aware of something. I'm gonna see if I can get a shot of this here. Take the camera up here and show you. Okay. Right here, that's the caliper piston. You will need to push that back in. Use an existing brake pad with a pair of pliers. You can press that back in. Or you can buy an adapter that goes between here and here, and it'll press that in. When you press that in, make sure you take fluid out of your master cylinder with a turkey baster, because when you press this in, the fluid will rise and it could overflow out of the master cylinder. So okay, installation is pretty basic. You just take your bungee off the spring and support the caliper body, and then we're just going to slide it right back over top, and it should just slide right in just like that, and that looks pretty good. There we go. Remember these pins, we greased them? One with the rubber grommet, that's the tip of it. That tip you have to move out like this and hold it, and there's a little notch. It's notched right across. 14mm bolt, and the retorque is 15.99 to 26.26 foot-pounds. So that's the retorque spec. I kept my bolts behind me here, so you want to retorque them. I put a little bit of anti-seize on them. That's optional, or you can just clean them up with a wire brush and put them in there like that. And as you do it up, it's going to pull the pin close tight against the bracket. Okay, before we end the video, when you torque down these bolts after turning the steering wheel, this is very, very important. That's why I'm showing you a close-up. You see that notch? That flat piece has to be facing up, because it goes circle, and if you look down further, let me get my pointer stick here, I'll show you. See that notch in there? See how that's raised? That flat piece locks in there, and then goes circle, and then the flat piece up at the top. If you put it in with the flat piece down there, and then you go to torque the bolt, you will bend the edge of this bolt, and this washer will not lock up against it tight, and then you can compromise the seal, and you'd have to order yourself a new bolt. So that's the same as the bottom one too. So you're going to need to turn the key on the car. Make sure both tires are not touching the ground. But I know this because the other side's already erased. So I'm going to start the car. This is just a temporary thing. We're just going to turn the ignition on the brake to unlock the steering wheel. Do that right now. You're going to have to start the car. guys. Now, as you see, we can approach it this way to get to these bolts, to torque them down. You'd also do this if you were to remove the caliper bracket, which is this thing here. There you go, guys. So I'm going to put the tire back on. These bolts here. You're going to torque it this pattern, here to here to here to here. 80 foot-pounds is the torque spec for the tire lug nut bolts. You're going to put the tire on. You're going to lower the vehicle just before the tire is completely touching the ground, just up a little. Then you're going to torque them down to 80 foot-pounds and then lower it the rest of the way, so you don't bind the bolts when you lower the car. So that's pretty much it, guys. So thank you for watching the this video. This concludes part 1 on the Hyundai brake service. If you clean and replace your front brakes, this is all the information you need to get the job done yourself. Head over to Jack of All Trades to see part 2. In part 2 we will be taking the rear drum brakes apart for educational purposes. Not because I need to replace them, but just to show you how to replace them. We're going to clean and replace the rear brakes. Head on over to my Jack of All Trades channel and check out part 2 on servicing your rear brakes. Please subscribe, leave a comment, and I'll try to answer your questions. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.